policy. After all, they are there to serve the people, not to be served. The parliamentarians, look, you voted to help your community. That is your job. That's what we're going to do for this country. Now, as far as the career employment, I've said so. We are going to reinstitute the SCC. Those who will hear me, remember, state construction companies in this country, the PWD, for example, is all running down in all the regions. We know it. They have the yards, they've been abandoned, they are being rotted, broken down. So we are going to retool them, and those are going to be the training grounds for job creation in this country, to answer and the solution to the maintenance culture that we seem to not be able to find the solution to it. This is the reason why I'm talking about it. I said this in certain areas, and why I came up with that policy is for the fact that I went to a minister's office. You know, just let me tell you a side story. I went to a minister's office to wait for him in his office for 30 minutes, sat down in his office, for goodness sake. Moment, his office was actually beautiful. The biggest table, the biggest conference hall, and a sitting area. For me to sit down there waiting for him for 30 minutes. After he came, look, the air conditioning was blowing high heat, and the louvers were missing in some of the, the office. It didn't make any sense. Here we are, we're talking about saving electricity, paying $25 million for car power, and the louvers in these buildings have been missing. A minister representing the country, a minister who is actually receiving the so-called foreign investor. What do you think? That foreign investor will have the vision or some image of this country. Number one, after waiting for him and left, my driver in the parking lot said, "Sir, excuse me, let me go use the bathroom." He came out less than 2 minutes after I finished. He said, "So, sir, I'm not able to use the bathroom because the toilet is not flushing. The water is not flowing, and the toilet has been left for days." So for goodness sake, the smell that came out of that building, I couldn't stand it either. So no, it's a maintenance issue. We must tackle it. These people are going to be engaged. There are so many people in this country who have learned some trade. Apprenticeship, be it the plumbing, electrician, paintings and the like, walking out there with no jobs. So the SCC center that we are going to create is going to be training grounds for skill upgrading. Skill upgrading for 1 year. 1 year only. Once they finish that 1 year, they are going to get a certificate of completion. That completion will guarantee them a job. If no, what that? You are not going to be employed based on party lines. You are not going to be employed based on who you know in this country any longer. If you want a job, you are going to stay in that region and get it. They are going to be the maintenance crew, the maintenance, for lack of word, let's say maintenance brigade, for example. They are going to be charged to fix every government property in this country. This is what I'm going to bring to this country. So look, we have people. Parties win elections for them to get the contracts because the party is winning. They take all the juicy and every contract, they take the contract to go and do a maintenance work on the government structure or a government building or a government school, a government hospital, for them to leave it halfway because they've squandered the money. There will be no more contracts for maintenance or anybody in this country. That money is going to be used to pay these people full-time jobs, Monday through Friday, as long as they want. So they can maintain the structures. The bungalows that are dilapidated in all those regions, we are going to fix them for the ministers, the MPs sitting in Accra doing nothing, to stay there, to be closer to the people, the constituency. This is what they must do. When the parliament is meeting, yes, the program will be delivered to them. They will know what is going to be discussed in parliament, so that they will come to do parliament work. Yes, where to stay in Accra, we are going to give them guest houses, regional guest houses, for them to stay. If you choose to stay in a hotel, that's your cost. But this is what, so we are going to stem the wastage and all those issues. We must be bold. We must be bold. No more free. These people are wasting money. Land cruisers. There are so many cars in the regions. They could use some of it. This is what we are going to. Look, enough is enough for change. The taxpayers must be taken care of. The poor must be reached out and lifted up. The elderly must be taken care of as well. The physical challenge must be taken care of. This is what we bring it to this country. Enough is enough.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Please feel free to clap. He's taking a question on how to stem the rural-urban migration and leveraged that to answer questions on dilapidated ministerial structures and waste of power and water.
Absolutely.
And brought in V8s and regional bungalows. So quite a loaded answer from Mr. Walker. This is the time the audience has been waiting for. If anyone has a question, I would implore you to raise your hand. Everyone is allowed to have just one question.
Sure.
And because of COVID-19 protocols, I will keep the microphone and I'll walk to you and stay at a distance, and then you ask your question. Please make it as brief as possible so that we can get through as many of them as we can. Abdul, I'm sure you'll take some notes, and then maybe we'll take 3 questions at a go and then allow Mr. Walker to answer, and then we continue. So when I do get to you, please say your name and your institution, and then get to your question as quickly as possible. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, my name is Dr. Sefi Mensah. I am representing the Mental Health Society of Ghana. The issue of mental health stigma is such that it's so deep-rooted, so mental health workers as well as service users are stigmatized. Those who need help do not want to seek help because they are afraid of being called mad. And the person who is giving the help is called the mad person's doctor. So what are you going to do to address this issue? Because there are lots of people who need mental health care and they are not seeking it.
Thank you. I'll just take the next question from this gentleman.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Mauli Agbanu. I'm from the NCCE. It's beautiful to hear you talk, presidential candidate, and all the lofty ideas you have. You know, without peace in this country, we cannot move anywhere. We cannot do anything. Lucky for us, we know that elections offer a peaceful mechanism to change government or to reaffirm governments. But over the years, we see that there's this emerging trend of violence in our elections. And in fact, NCCA conducted a recent research, and the Ghanaians are saying that vigilantism is one of the biggest threats to our democracy. What will you do about it when you become president? That is my question.
Okay, Mauli.
Ending vigilantism is our second concern, and I'm sure that I saw one more hand up from a representative of More Hope for the Disabled, and we'll hear him now, sir.
Yeah. Good evening. My name is Joseph Odemeza from More Hope for Disabled Foundation. You bear with me that most of Ghanaians who are disabled are being marginalized. That we, the disabled, don't live in dignity as we want, because our jobs, they train us to leave us alone, to go and struggle for ourselves. For instance, if I do my shoes, I can't carry it and go and sell. We find it difficult. What will you do for the disabled to feel that they are in safe society, that they can do and live self-reliant? Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. So a question on mental health, another one on ending political vigilantism and the welfare of the disabled.
Yes. Let me tackle the mental health issue first, and I'm glad you raised that question. My family actually is in the medical field. So mental health issue must be taken on seriously in this country. The facilities must be built right. Education must be promoted. The doctors must be well rewarded. The nurses must be encouraged and well rewarded. It's because of the neglect of the mental health facilities in this country. Look, mental health is not a sin or it's not evil. It's about medical treatment, finding the right medications for depression. Most of the mental health in this country is because of, I may say, poverty, joblessness, and depression. This is the story of this country. Yes, there is some medical issues, call it hormonal imbalance, call it anything, DNA, anything. But it can be checked, it can be controlled by medication and counseling, and actually empowerment. So this is what must be promoted. So when we take power, we are going to look at it carefully, rebuild the facilities. Again, I believe in the architectural space. A built environment actually shapes behavior. We have a facility that is not actually functioning. Therefore, it begets poverty. It begets the illness that you are actually looking to cure. So yes, government must take a lead in promoting it, solving preventive medicine. Preventive medicine must be tackled and given to everybody who needs it in this country. So yes, this is what we're going to help. We will do so. On the issue of Mr. Mawuli, I believe you...
Emerging trend of violence.
Violence. Mr. Mawuli, I have never seen a rich man who is ready to die for a cause. They use these people, tell them to go and kill themselves for their selfish gains. A hungry man is an angry man. So basic, they must be provided jobs. If you have jobs, you are not going to be foolish to go kill yourself and leave your families, so in want. So joblessness and poverty must be tackled. That will probably stem the vigilantism. Vigilantists were actually developed or grown or birthed by the parties. Those two parties in this country who have become the problem in this country must be taken on the sidelines this time. This is why the independent movement is so paramount, that we must encourage independence. Should we win, and we are going to win, we are not going to ask anybody which party you belong to. We are going to create the jobs. As I told you, the SCC and the maintenance cultures is going to be regenerated. I've talked about bringing back the parks and gardens, for example. We don't seem to be able to grow trees on our streets, beautification of our environments, for tourism and the like. And we talk about tourism, but what do? So we must look at it collectively. Bring the architects, bring the civil engineers, bring the urban planners. Let's redevelop the urban planners in every region. Develop their facilities, engage them. There are people, young, able-bodied and girls, men, who have graduated with skills from the universities. They know how to develop our roads, the streets, street addresses. Today we are talking about digitization. Go and ask the old lady at Dr. Chua and Koko, what is his address digitized? Nobody knows. We've wasted money. We could have used that money to actually employ the young graduates who have technology, IT, CAD systems. CAD is computer-aided designs. This time we don't even have drafting boards anymore. So they do know, they are skilled to do this work. Let them do the work and stop this, excuse me, I don't want to say foolishness, but yes, we must engage them fully. They must be engaged to develop the roads, the sewer lines, the gutters must flow so we can stem the proliferation of mosquito breeding in stagnant waters, which therefore leads also to the medical care that we don't seem to be able to care. Everything is malaria. Yes, maybe we can reduce the malaria infestation in this country if we build the gutters right, proper sewer lines, and beautification. We must clean our streets. We must clean our environment. This is basic, and we must look at it seriously. In the issue of the disabled, I happen to be a design engineer, and I work in the architectural and the social and construction industry. We don't have a policy for barrier-free designs. If I say barrier-free designs, it means every building must have a handicap code. The gutters must be covered. The sidewalks must be wheelchair accessible. The buildings, if every building goes over 4 or 3 floors, it must have an elevator or a lift. This is it's done elsewhere. The braille system, a blind must be able to get into a lift and go over the walls and be able to pick the braille system and know which floor is going. It's basic, it's done. We sit here as if we don't know what is done elsewhere. Our leaders, our politicians travel elsewhere. They go there and sit there and go shopping and come back home and never even give any results of what they're going to do. We are going to cut all that. The ambassadors of Ghana's appointees ambassadors elsewhere, that is their job. They must represent the country in all conferences only when it's relevant. We will allow a minister to travel out of this country to go so that we can save money, so we can build the proper hospital, the proper maintenance, the healthcare and the psychiatric hospitals, the proper streets. We are going to cut all that so we can use that money to employ the people in this country to do the work. This is what we stand for. And we are serious. We're going to take it on. And this is what we are going to do.
And I'll ask a political question before Thomak goes round again. In answering all the questions, you have referred more than once to the political parties. Indeed, you describe the political parties as being the problem.
Absolutely.
Indeed, you made reference to Parliament, and you talked about Parliament using words like wastage.
Wastage.
And so on. Great. You are an independent presidential candidate. Should you become president, we haven't seen as many independent parliamentary candidates, persons being sponsored by you. What it means is that the Constitution then says you need at least 50% of your appointees to come from Parliament. Where are you going to get them from? Given the fact that these are the same parties you have described as people who waste, as people who have become the problem.
Moment. For information, I did sponsor a few independent candidates, MPs, across the country, financially and support-wise. Yes, it's not enough. We didn't have enough people to stand as independent candidates. In 2016, if you look at our posters, we said we're supporting all independent candidates across the country. The challenge is enormous. I'm not denying that. But I believe, and I've spoken to several of them, several MPs who are also frustrated because they went to go and serve their communities, their constituencies, for them to get to Parliament, to be drowned by not being listened to, unless they do the party work, so that the party getting into office is there to promote the party agenda, so that they can win in the next 4 years to stay in power, to do the same thing again.
So these persons you've been speaking to, sir,
yes,
are not principled enough to voice out their frustrations.
They have.
They get drowned in the politics.
I said they get drowned. They are voiced, but they are drowned because they simply don't have the vote, or they will never get the allocation of the budget that they need. So unless they do the party's interest, this is the frustration most of them face. They went there sacrificing to support their constituents, their villages, to get the needed facilities that to get there to be frustrated. So yes, we are going to engage these people who are willing. They've spoken to us. They are cheering us on, so that for goodness sake, they will be targeted to serve their community. They are there to serve their community, not to serve the party. This is the story of their frustrations. So yes, we are encouraging them.
So 50% of your appointees will come from Parliament.
Absolutely.
You are sure about that?
They are good
and
people.
these are not people who will be part of those you have identified as being the problem, those you have identified as being part of the wastage in the system.
I mean, it's about empowerment. People given the choice will do the right thing.
Right.
People given the choice will do the right thing. Once they are not able, they toe the line, they follow the pack of herds. This is a story, because after all, they're going to be there for 4 years, and should they win, well, I got my Land Cruisers, I got everything, I got my per diem, I got my ex gratia.
Yes.
We are going to cancel that.
Right, we'll see about that. Thelma, I saw a sea of hands when you went around the first time. I don't know if you still have those hands around you.
Indeed,
There's a hand behind you.
I
You
certainly...
You need to look behind you as well, otherwise you leave them out.
I certainly did, and like we said at the beginning of this program, we are streaming live on Facebook at Ghana Broadcasting Corporation. We are also streaming on Twitter and on Instagram, so join us with your comments, and we will try and go through some of them as time would permit. I have a couple here from Sadiq the General. He's saying this man is making so much sense here. God help Mother Ghana. Another comment. Simon Boninga says, my daddy is an intelligent man. Let us vote massively for him. So those are comments coming in from Facebook. You can also join the conversation on social media by sending your comments, and we will get to them. I saw a hand right up front, and I think I'll allow our mother to have her voice heard. Like I said, your name, your institution that you represent, and then to your question of the day.
Thank you for the opportunity. I'm Messina Afroa Nijan, President of the Market Association. Please, I'm highly glad of how you are analyzing things. But please, may I know your agenda for the markets, especially informal sector, your agenda for them about their finances, their infrastructure, in their general businesses, and what extraordinary thing can you leave for the informal sector to put you at the back of their minds, because it's just some few weeks to election. Thank you.
Thank you very much,
Okay,
Nana.
thank you.
Mr. Walker, I would implore you to bear in mind that the informal sector is reeling under the pressures of COVID-19, and so many people are being laid off. So a very key point there raised by our mother. If you take note, I'll take the next.
May I address that before we go to the next question, please?
And we'll take two more
Two,
so
okay.
that we can go through as many
Sure.
hands as we quickly can, if you don't mind, please.
I'm Bernard Akunya from Mental Health Society of Ghana. Mental health policy says that it's supposed to be free, but it is in practice not really free. What will your government do to actualize the policy, and how soon, in case you become the president?
Okay.
Mental health care is meant to be free, but it's not. That is our next question, and I'll take one more from here.
My name is Kwame, representing the Ghana Journalists Association.
The Ghana Journalist
Association.
Thank you.
Yeah, surprisingly, you didn't say anything about the media.
I'm sorry, bye.
I said surprisingly, you didn't say anything about the media.
Thank you.
I thought walking into the state broadcasting house, we would have had a chat with one of my colleagues for them to tell you the condition under which they work.
Well, I
And
think
then, my next question is, what will you do to ensure that the journalists work in a very safe environment and will also be protected?
thank you.
Because we, apart from holding on to high journalistic standard, we also care about the protection of our members. And then what will you do to improve their working condition?
Thank
Okay,
you. Three
thank you.
key questions for you, Mr. Walker.
The first to my lady, the market women. The informal sector, the market women have the power in this country. They probably control the biggest financial muscle in this country. However, she's talking about financing to support their businesses. Financing in the normal banking world is developed by credit history, your capacity to repay the loan that has been extended to you. Therefore, I believe the World Bank and the IMF donated money to this country to develop that sector in terms of the word they used, I believe, if I recall correctly, was banking the unbanked. Therefore, banking the unbanked was developed to generate not only internal generated funds, but also have some structure in this place where your history, your repayment history could be brought to bear to be able to depend on that to justify a loan for you. So yes, should we come? I believe in open borders, for example. I believe that every citizen must have a bank account, for example. And if they do so, maybe the government and the social welfare can extend some government assistance, be it minimum income guarantee, for example, that has been developed around the world. Ghana can do so as well. So yes, for a market woman whose business must have a bank account, and the history of that bank account can justify credit worthiness to be able to stand on a guarantee format to be able to give you that loan that you so deserve. We in Ghana, we are cash and carry society. Therefore, when you go to the bank, not only don't you have a credit history or the collateral to be able to stand behind the loan that you so deserve, you are not allowed to get that loan. So yes, we must put some structures in place. We are going to restructure our banking system to allow people to have freely to be able to walk into a bank and get a bank account, to be able to develop a history where somebody can collateralize the loan that you deserve. I also believe in the built environment. By my work and my design background, I believe in beauty and cleanliness. So we are going to redesign the markets. The markets must be redesigned with proper sewer systems, proper toilets in every store, so that it's not a public use you must have a toilet in your facility. Not only is it going to stem the health issue and the stench in these areas, so that we can actually clean the place daily. Not only is that going to also improve health and environment and our breathing issues, I believe, again, the built environment, beauty shapes behavior. If we build it right, people will behave. And we built it right, we can have a maintenance brigade who will come in and solve the problems, the broken toilet, the broken street lights, the broken stalls, the broken windows that I talk about. Create the jobs for the people to do so. And we can use the contract that the parties have squandered to pay these people. Fully and gainful employment. This is what we're going to tackle. So I'm glad for that question. We will engage you, to see how we can actually improve those things. Again, the architects must be engaged. The urban planners must be engaged. On the issue of the mental health, yes, in Ghana we seem to have dwelled on free, free, free. And I'm glad you said that. It's free, but it's not free. Anybody who gets free or a handout loses its dignity. If somebody gives you everything free, you are beholden to that person. So you must be gainfully employed, or you must receive assistance somehow, so that you can hopefully live on your own sustainable life. First, respect and the like. So this is what we are going to bring into bear. I don't know if there's any other question from the back. As far as the Journalists Association, if I may pride myself, I am the first, or we are the first independent candidate. Me and my running mate, Mr. Jacob Asiedu, were the first to ever visit the Ghana Journalists Association office to see Mr. Alfred Kwame. I believe that's the name. Alfred Kwame. History. We are the first in the history of this country to visit him, to engage him, and to put our policy to protect the journalists exactly. Crime against journalists must be prosecuted in no certain term to be a deterrent. I also called for an insurance policy to protect journalists in the field of work, be it by accident or attack and the like. This is what we're bringing to the table. So yes, I'm happy you brought that question, because it's on record. It was published just last week that we were the first to actually do so. So yes, journalists must be encouraged, they must be promoted. I also call for an endowment fund to promote journalism in this country, because guess what? Journalism and the media only thrives elsewhere on advertising revenues. Ghana, we don't have advertising culture in this country, so they are not able to gain wealth to actually promote. So government must step in as a facilitator, a public-private partnership format, so that they can actually promote journalism. If we do so with the built environment, maybe they can promote tourism. We must check our airways for the filth and the programs that we are showing in this country that is corrupting our culture and our morals. This is what must be checked. I'm not opposed to freedom of whatever you want to call it. Yes, freedom of journalism, freedom of whatever you want to watch. But certain programs in this country must be relegated to pay-per-view, for example, 2 a.m. to 3 a.m. or 4 a.m., where children are not going to be influenced by the filth that they're watching. Today we are watching foreign films, call it Kungumbaya or whatever they call them, and the Mexico stuff. That is influencing the children and they're growing with that so-called culture that doesn't belong to us. The government is the government responsibility to check this culture. The government has the responsibility to check the culture, check the children, and check the morals in this country by owning the airwaves.
Just a quick follow-up on that point you have just made about regulating media content.
Absolutely.
About 2 years ago, the NMC was taken to court because it attempted to regulate to some extent media content and what was shown on TV at certain times of the day. The Supreme Court ruled against the NMC, and the government is not allowed, even if it is your government, to interfere and intervene when it comes to content that the media shows.
I'm glad you mentioned this. The airwaves belongs to the government. The airwaves is the government that issues the licensing. It's the government that allocates, that type of bandwidth, if I may call it so, to be able to allow you to propagate your message. So the government must have control over the content. I'm not saying banning, I didn't say so, but we can relegate certain programs to a timeline where children are not influenced. We must promote our culture. We must develop our culture. We cannot take everything that is brought to us and accept it and consume it without checks and balances. It's not done elsewhere.
Right.
We must look at Ghana. Ghana's interest must be first at all costs. You understand? Yes, that's why I'm saying there is a segment called pay-per-view. If you want to watch your pornographic, whatever it is, but my goodness, watch it at 1 a.m., 2 a.m. It's your private room. But don't allow it to be spewed in the normal airways for school children to be influenced.
Right. Before Thelma comes in with the third round, another question from the Ghana Integrity Initiative. They are collaborators of this program as well. And their question has to do with campaign financing. And I'll read the preamble as well as the question to you, sir. It says, a known political figure is quoted to have said in October 2018 that financiers of the major political parties in the country are to be blamed for the challenges in fighting corruption by governments. The issue of campaigning financing, both during internal primaries and during national elections, is now a cause for concern, which something has to be done about. Now the question is, how would you contribute to controlling the current phenomenon of campaign financing, and what checks can be instituted to ensure that all politicians comply with whatever control mechanism that would be put in place, knowing that the political parties are not complying to Political Parties Act 2000, Act 574. By the way, who is funding your campaign?
I am self-funded. We are self-funded, me and my partner, sacrificing for the common good. Nobody, for your information, has contributed 1 cedi or 1 peso to us. This is the sacrifice and the commitment we bring to the table. So you've actually answered my question. This is the reason why we must remove these parties, because they are there for their party's gain. But they
probably are doing this
under a quid pro quo.
You probably are doing this, sir, so that if you become president, it's an investment and you reap the profits therefrom.
Thank you, Moment. I think I've made it public that we are not taking money from anybody, so we are not beholden to any party loyalist or any donor who is going to turn around and come day one and say, because I contributed to you, I deserve this contract without any merit. Contracts are going to be given by merit, by qualification, regardless of party or who you are. It doesn't matter, you have nothing. If you merit, you will get the contract. And it must be based on success. Success, not by people collecting contracts with no scale. Just because their party, they funded the party, they collect the contracts and go out there and outsource those contracts. You understand? Clearly, a quid pro quo issue. A quid pro quo means I'm giving you this. I'm coming back tomorrow to collect what I gave you back. This is the story of this country. So the parties, should they win 4 years, if MPP, for example, wins, it's all MPP loyalists who are going to get the jobs, the contracts, and the like. NDC comes in, they are also going to do, they will sweep away everybody else, stop the contracts, not pay the contracts, leave the projects halfway undone, taxpayers' cost, and wastage again, for them to turn around and sue the Ghana government for judgment debt again, double wastage, and the like. It's a vicious cycle. It never stops. This is why the independent movement, with no party affiliations, no contractual obligation, or no quid pro quo hanging on their necks, is the way to go for this country. This is it. I'm not here to look for jobs. I came to sacrifice. You understand? That's why we are self-funded. Commitment. I attempted in 2016. I lost money. I'm back again. This is the commitment we bring to the table. Yes, this is where we are.
And if you just joined us, this is the first in the series of GBC's presidential encounters ahead of the presidential elections on 7th December 2020, which is just about 25 days away from today. But unfortunately, today also we woke up to the sad news of the demise of former President Jerry John Rawlings, and we remember him even as we proceed with today's program. Thelma Taki, my colleague is with the audience in the studio, and we'll proceed to take more questions as we commemorate and we actually dedicate today's program to the memory of former President Jerry John Rawlings. Thelma, are there any more questions?
Yes, we have a few coming in from our social media platforms, a few paying tribute to the character of the late former President Jerry John Rawlings, and some of them have expressed their...
Yes, so we had a few challenges, but you can go on now. We're okay.
Right, so I was saying that we have a few comments on our social media platforms acknowledging the sacrifice of former President Jerry John Rawlings and what he stood for in Ghana's democracy, especially in the Fourth Republic since the start of the 1992 Constitution. And we have a few tributes being paid to him on social media as well. But to the issue on hand at the minute, and to the independent candidate who sits on the hot seat right now, a few comments coming his way. This one from Louis Edem Beze is saying, our current and future generation will be happiest if only his talk ain't cheap. God bless this man. As a matter of fact, I am recording this video. Lewis, I hope you've paid your TV license as well. Thank you for your civic duty. And here is another question. Adelaide in team is asking, how can I join this party? So maybe, Mr. Walker, when the buck comes back to you, you may tell people how they can support the movement that you are on. There are a few questions in the audience. If I can see another show of hands, I'll go around again, and then we will take those as well. I'll start from right beside me.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Aziz Lai from NCC. Of course, I can see you are having a lot of supporters and people are liking your ideas. I like them too.
Thank you.
But I have one challenge. I see this presidential encounter as your interview to the presidential seat.
Sure.
Since you were saying that most of our problems are our politicians and they speak a lot but they don't act, and since action speaks louder than words, you came to your interview late, and I want to know, I want to be convinced more. If I want to vote for you, I like your ideas, I want to vote for you. But now I'm having this thing with you. Convince me why I should vote for you since you came to your interview late.
Mr. Walker, a tough one, if I may say so myself. So take that one on your belt. We'll take another question. Like I said, we'll take a batch of 3, and then we'll get back to you for the answers to the questions. Yes, sir, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Since I mentioned my name already, that's okay.
Yeah, so it would be a quick one so that I can walk down.
So we know that democracy is a system of government that allows a lot of participation from the citizens, unlike other systems of government where everything is pushed down the throat of citizens. And we know that for citizens to act well, they must know what democracies are all about. They must know the rules of the game. In your administration, if you are voted, what will you do about civic education? Thank you.
Civic education is his point, and wants to pick your thoughts on what you will do when voted into power. Yes, please, your name and your institution.
All right, thank you very much. My name is Kofi Garbin. I represent the National Council for Private Early Childhood Education and Growth and Development, sorry. Yes, and we know early childhood is the foundation for education in the country. My simple question is, what do you have? Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Walker, over to you.
Okay. Before I address those questions, and for what Mr. Mumun brought, I think the 1992 Constitution must be something that we all must pay tribute to Mr. Ex-President Jerry Rawlings. 1992, his administration is the embodiment of that policy, or the Constitution, if I may say so. So we are all grateful for what he's done. I've called for review of the Parliament, the Constitution itself. In our policy, we are going to look at abolishing the indemnity clause as the first order to stem the corruption. For example, people in office, presidency must be accountable as well. So I clap for the ex-president. His legacy will be on that constitution. Not too long ago, he called for the abolishment of the indemnity clause, right?
Yes.
Yes.
He did.
So I will spearhead in his memory to abolish the indemnity clause. So all Ghanaians listening to me, the indemnity clause is over. It's going to be over. It's going to be cancelled. So that all politicians, it doesn't matter if you're president and the like, you must be accountable to the people of Ghana and the people that you serve. Corruption must not stop at the lower floor. Corruption and checking the corruption must go all the way to the top. So yes, we come in with a different attitude, a different encounter. This is what we're going to do. So I will encourage all those people who are cherishing the ex-president in his memory to support me and my partner, my running mate, Jacob Asiedu. We are going to take that policy and cancel it as quickly as we can, so that everybody in this country will be accountable for that. The indemnity clause has been shielded to protect certain people, no matter what they do. No, it must not go on any longer. So in his memory, Mr. Rawlings and the wife, I'm going to be the spearhead for that, abolishing that indemnity clause. In the sense of lateness, for your information, we were not late. So we were not late. We came in, the street lights of this place were non-existent. If you step out in the compound of this broadcasting that was built by our first president, maintenance issue, it's a problem. So the street lights, the signing of this place is really as a challenge. So I made a comment before I walked in to some of the employees. I said, this is what I've been talking about. This is exactly what I've been talking. And it's so glaring, staring in our faces, where things are not working, things are not actually what must be done. So yes, the solution is there. We must do so. The traffic system in this country is totally congested. We must redesign them. The urban planners, the engineers, the civil engineers, the traffic engineers must be brought to book. They are looking for jobs. They are desperate, needing something to do. We are going to rebuild the urban planning, all urban planning. Your days are here. Your worth is going to be cherished. We are going to rebuild the facilities so you'll be fully engaged to do what you do best. This is what we are coming in for. So, I'm sorry, the other question was?
On civic education.
Civic education is all about education. Education, education, education. Disseminating information in the communities. There were days when the Ministry of Information's job was exactly that, but not for party politics. In Ghana, we have made Ministry of Education as the mouthpiece of the government in power, propagating stories, promises and propaganda, covering up their malfeasance and their corruption. Ministry of Information must be out in the streets with vans, educating people about healthcare, educating people about environment, educating people of child mortality issues, preventive healthcare and the like. This is what they are supposed to do. So we are going to retool, redesign, engineer those institutions to do what they are supposed to do, not by a mouthpiece of a government who talks about corruption yet never does what they are supposed to do, not by covering up the government corruption and to put out some propaganda document. No, Minister of Information is exactly Minister of Information for the people and to the people of Ghana. This is what we're going to do. So I thank you for that policy.
And then there was another question on early childhood development.
Early childhood is basic. The mothers must have facilities to engage. I've talked about the kindergarten doctrine. The kindergarten schools must have facilities to support the children so that daycare, for example, where the mother can actually go to work if she chooses to do so, to have a safe environment to put the child in there. I've talked about redeveloping the school systems in this country. Architects are going to be engaged to redesign the schools. I'm opposed to the design of the schools. We're talking about building schools removing children from under the trees. For them to actually build schools of today, just put up some blocks, paint it yellow and brown, put up the roof on it and call it a school. No, it's not enough. The school must be fully equipped, proper facilities, science labs, dining halls, not some chop bar on the streets. in the schools. Even we have been so demeaning where the university in Ghana, those days, the leaders of our country now, hear me out, they are the ones who benefited the most. What Nkrumah built, those days when you went to Legon or Tech, they were served, the dining halls were there. Today, go there and see. No dining hall, and the young students, because of their ingenuity, have coined the word eating in the bushes and call it bush canteens. Chop bar in the bush canteens, a university graduate. This is what they are facing there. We are going to change it. We must